Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the change of command for the 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron. My name is Staff Sergeant Leonard Kelly, and I will be your narrator for today's event. During today's ceremony, indoor protocol will be observed. Therefore, hats will not be worn, and military members are asked to stand at attention during the national anthem, and civilian members may pay respect to the flag by placing their right hand over their heart. Today, Lieutenant Colonel David R. Vollmer will relinquish command of the 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron to Lieutenant Colonel Brian L. Belson. Presiding over today's ceremony is the commander, 2nd Weather Group, Colonel David E. Bako. Today we are joined by a number of special and distinguished guests. Director, Air Force Special Operations Weather, Colonel Brian Adams. Spouse of 1st Special Operations Group Commander, Patricia Bauernfeind. We are also honored to have with us today Colonel Bako's wife, Bianca. Lieutenant Colonel Vollmer's wife, Patricia. Lieutenant Colonel Belson's wife, Michelle, and their child, Audrey, as well as his parents, Norman and Jane, and his brother, Chief Warrant Officer 3, Joe Belson. And a special welcome to all commanders, directors, colonels, chiefs, first sergeants, family and friends. It is an honor to have you with us today. The 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron's mission is to deploy the Weather Systems Support Cadre to assist combatant commanders with setup, maintenance, and theater logistics support of tactical weather and communication systems, and to train airmen on weather systems and concepts prior to deployment while performing developmental and operational tests on emerging technologies. The change of command is a military ceremony deeply rooted in history and tradition dating back to the time of Frederick the Great of Prussia. In that period, military organizations developed flags with designs. When the soldiers on the field followed their leaders into battle, they kept sight of the flags. If the banner still waved after the conflict, it was a sign that their side had not tasted defeat on the field of battle. Having this position of great importance, that flag was incorporated into the age-old change of command ceremonies. The organization banner was exchanged in public for all to see that he who holds the flag is the unchallenged leader of the armies. The heart of the ceremony today is the formal reading of official orders and the passing of the unit flag from outgoing commander to the incoming commander. Acceptance of responsibility to lead, organize, and inspire the unit is the responsibility of the incoming commander. The action is simple and direct. It is a transfer of total responsibility, authority, and accountability from one individual to another. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party, and please remain standing for the presentation of the colors, the singing of our national anthem by Ashley Anderson, and the invocation by Chaplain Aaron Reynolds.
Post the colors. Colors. Heads. Halt. 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 Forward. Halt. Colors. Halt. Reset. Halt.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights o'er the ramparts we watched, we're so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Arms. Colors. Colors, sir. Hearts.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, as we say farewell to one commander and we greet our new leader, we ask your blessing on each of them. They're each about to take on new responsibilities and opportunities. So those who know them best and love them, pray with us that you will inspire the best that's in them. Give them the wisdom to know the right path and the courage to follow that path, even in the worst of times. Be also with those of us who are called to follow. Teach us loyalty and teach us trust. Lord, we ask your blessings on them, on ourselves, and on airmen everywhere who risk their lives to defend the world's freedom in the days ahead. Lord, be our unity and give us a small glimpse of your kingdom. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thank you, Senior Anderson, for that beautiful rendition of the national anthem, and to you too, sir, Chaplain Reynolds, for the invocation. At this time, it is my distinct pleasure to present to you the Commander, 2nd Weather Group, Colonel David E. Bako.
You know, when you're my height, you get to do this at just about every ceremony. So, ladies and gentlemen, I was hoping they wouldn't close the doors. It is such a beautiful day out, and beyond the fact of this ceremony that we're going to perform today, it's kind of a homecoming for Bianca and I. We were stationed here in this organization a few years ago, and every time I see Mr. Betcher, you know, I get a little twitch because I know he's going to come to me with some new issue. On the good side of that, anytime we have a problem anywhere that has anything to do, one of the first inclinations I have, even as the group commander, is to call the squadron commander and say, go find the pirate and let's work this issue. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly a glorious day. I'm so happy you guys are here as we celebrate the actions of one commander and welcome a new officer into the job of squadron command. First, I'd like to welcome some of our guests that are here. Brian, it is great to see you again. And Mike, it's awesome. It's showing quite a history, either that has been in this unit, worked with this unit, worked on this base, to have the weather community circle up as we celebrate this change of command. You know, 2nd Weather Group is a little bit unique in that it is an organization of 5 unique squadrons that are not replicated anywhere else in the Air Force. And that is exactly true of the 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron. As Colonel Vollmer has told me several times, you know, this is about fixing, training, and testing. And these guys do it better than anyone else in the Air Force. But most of all, the herd here is about war fighting, either making sure that we get the best systems out the door, that our folks are trained on how to use those, and then we always have the cadre downrange when things have a problem and the folks in the field can't fix it. The WISC has time and again been to the rescue. And that is in large part the reason why, even when we've had challenges with equipment, the WISC was there to make it right, to keep those systems online, and oftentimes to do so in some very precarious situations. As far as Colonel Vollmer is concerned, you know, when it comes to passion and leadership, I think if you look up HUA, you might find Dave's picture next to it. Despite being a brilliant man with a PhD, and how many guys out here did he try to explain potential vorticity advection to you in the middle of a staff meeting? Yeah, exactly. But even despite the academic prowess that Colonel Vollmer has, he still, in his heart, knows what it means to be a warrior. And I think he has exemplified that both in the way he leads himself and how he leads his organization. He is leaving us today to go from leading our fine men and women at Tucows off to the Air Force Academy, where he's going to begin forging the minds and the attitudes of our next generation of Air Force leaders. Dave, I think you and Patricia and the kids are going to love it out there. I visited, never lived there, but it's certainly, I can understand why so many people almost never want to leave. Buy a snowblower, okay? Lieutenant Colonel Brian Belson, like me, is a Mustang. So having started his career in the Navy as a nuclear specialist, which let me tell you, I mean, you think we've got it tough in the weather field. I mean, those guys, they've got to have some serious smarts to get in that field. But after a few years, realized his initial mistake and made the very correct decision, I think, to cross over in the blue. And after graduating from college with his degree, went to basic Met down at Florida State. You know, he also has a PhD. So I don't know if we're like starting a trend here, you know, warrior academics here at Tucows, but also has his PhD. And I'm looking for great things from you, Brian. You've got an incredible organization here. And Colonel Vollmer has done a great job keeping it moving, and I expect you to do the same. So one thing I needed to ad-lib a little bit. Obviously, my wife and I have been on the road a little bit to try and get to all these changes of command, so we didn't have an opportunity. Dave, if you'll come up for just a second. Wanted to make sure that you had this from the staff there at AFLA. We really appreciate your leadership and look forward to where you're going. And make sure you have some appropriate pictures.
If you can't see, there are cows in ghillie suits. That's awesome. Thank you, sir.
And Colonel Zuccarello and I personally both wanted you to have our commander's points. It's a measure of excellence.
Thank you, sir. Very good.
So, before we transition this flag, I wanted to take the moment to recognize Colonel Vollmer officially for his duties here as the commander. And after that, we'll get to the rest of the ceremony. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll join me.
The Meritorious Service Medal was established by Executive Order 11448 on January 16, 1969. It is awarded to members of the Armed Forces of the United States who distinguish themselves by either outstanding achievement or meritorious service to the United States. This award was established as the counterpart of the Bronze Star Medal for recognition of meritorious non-combat service. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of the Meritorious Service Medal. Attention to orders. Lieutenant Colonel David R. Vollmer distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States, culminating in duties as Commander, 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron, Air Force Weather Agency, Hurlburt Field, Florida. During this period, Colonel Vollmer's team was instrumental in the evaluation and fielding of weather systems valued at more than $300 million, including the wartime development of the Air Force's first ever portable Doppler weather radar at 7 Southwest Asia locations. Faced with increased outage time on these commercial off-the-shelf radar systems, his team devised new operations check and maintenance procedures, ultimately improving the system's availability rate by nearly 60%. In addition, he directed combat weather training courses and led the successful training and employment of the United States Central Command's Weather Systems Support Cadre. As a result, over 900 weather airmen received crucial pre-deployment weather systems proficiency training, and 57 technicians successfully deployed to 2 combat theaters, providing over 3,000 fixed actions at 75 forward operating bases. As a true testament to Colonel Vollmer's leadership, the squadron earned distinction as the Air Force's Outstanding Specialized Weather Support Unit of the Year for 2012. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Vollmer reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. I now present to you the Commander, 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel David Vollmer.
Usually not a notes guy, but there's no way I could commit to memory everything I want to say to you guys, and I'm going to have to keep it relatively short because we only have the room for the rest of the day. Before I go any further, I do want to thank Colonel Bako for coming down here, and I know it's really hard to travel in these current fiscal times, but thank you for coming, and thank you so much for bringing your wife Bianca as well and your granddaughter. And thank you, Mrs. Barenfein. I know you've had quite a working relationship with Patricia with Hurlburt Spouses Club, so 2 Patricias, that's awesome. I want to thank Colonel Adams also, your support, your staff support, what we do here. I know we're not part of AFSOC, but you've made us part of AFSOC, you've made us part of the family, and we really appreciate that. And of course, Mr. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Mike Davenport, I got to thank you for your, not only your continued friendship, but your continued mentorship. It means a lot to me. You're definitely somebody who's had a huge impact on my career in a good way. So, and at Senior Emin Anderson, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. And Chaplain Reynolds, thank you as well. And Michelle, you and all of Brian's family and friends, it's awesome to see you here today. This is probably the most important part of, or at least the highest honor that Brian will have experienced to date. So for you to be here to share that with them is phenomenal. So thank you so much. Sergeant Herron, thank you and your team for putting this together. We've got a number of other squadron commanders and superintendents. I want to thank you for coming. And especially the men and women of the 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron, obviously. Thank you. Thank you. You know, when Lieutenant Colonel Belson and I first started talking about what would be a good calendar date to do this change of command, we kept coming up on 21 June for a couple of reasons. But I got to tell you, that date's very special to me for another reason. Exactly 17 years ago today, at about this time, I received my commission as a 2nd Lieutenant in the United States Air Force at Officer Training School. January 21st, 1996, OTS Class 9605. So here I am 17 years later, and I can tell you, I was a brand new lieutenant with a whole lot of thrust and not a lot of vector, and I had no idea what I wanted, but I've never in a million years would I picture myself here about to relinquish command of truly the most outstanding weather support squadron in the Air Force. So, you know, it's, and ever since I learned about the WISC mission and the Combat Weather Center mission, both back when they were separate units, it was something that I wanted to be a part of. And I got to interact with the WISC on a deployment, and I thought they were just the coolest thing, and I thought, I want to be part of that. I wish I could put into words what an honor it's been to serve you as your commander. Each day my goal was to be the commander that I thought you deserved, and I hope I have been. And it's been an amazing ride, and I only have one regret, and that's that my journey with you is ending right now. But you know, today's really not about me, and it's, to some extent it's about Lieutenant Colonel Belson, but really it's all about you guys. This is about the 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron. So that's what we're here today to celebrate. You are the cavalry. And by that I mean you're the good guys who sweep in to save the day when all seems lost. And whether it's a broken TMQ-53 at a remote fob when a dust-off is needed, or whether it's a no-notice training requirement for deploying SAUT, or whether it's a multi-million-dollar system that needs rigorous testing, you're the first, the last, and the only people they call. You are the WISC. You're the Combat Weather Center. You're the herd, and you will always be my brothers and sisters. You are the most deployed squadron in the Air Force Weather Agency. And in the 2 years that we've been here, since we last exchanged the guide on here, you've deployed 57 airmen, a combined 6,000 man days, and you've traveled over 150,000 miles across Iraq, Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, the Gulf region, and much of Africa to well over 75 sites, making over 3,000 repairs to tactical weather systems in harm's way. You stood up the first ever dedicated WISC team for United States Africa Command from nothing. You took the EWR 700XD portable Doppler radar from the brink of failure. You fixed it, you deployed it into combat, and you made it a reliable piece of battlefield intelligence and a keystone in the safety of flight operations in 9 different locations in Operation Enduring Freedom alone. You identified and demonstrated a potentially fatal flaw in the maintenance winch on the FMQ-22, saving lives and hopefully spurring a contractor redesign. You fielded the first ever FMQ-23 and tested it to ensure interoperability with both Air Force and Army networks. You built a $45,000 state-of-the-art training facility. You replaced the floor of the equipment bay, regraded the training yard, installed new concrete pads and sidewalks, and procured personal protective equipment for squadron members and their students. You also absorbed a new operating location at Fort Huachuca. You taught over 900 students in 4 classes at 3 locations, and you conducted over 30 major tests. You spent over 300 man days deployed in support of testing upgrades to the $260 million JET, Joint Environmental Toolkit alone, and a grander total of close to 500 days with nearly 20 TDYs to 10 bases, while supporting a fleet of over 900 Air Force weather systems valued well over $300 million. And somehow, you still had time to win 2 Air Force level, 16 Field Operating Agency level, and 28 group level awards, most recently having earned the squadron level award for the entire Air Force. So Colonel Banco, thank you again for being here today. Your support of this organization has been unwavering, and the men and women of the squadron really appreciate you fighting on their behalf. And as you've already heard, Colonel Banco is a distinguished alumnus of this organization, so it has a history of cranking out leaders, and I appreciate that you are still part of the team. Sergeant Pupries, I couldn't have asked for a better superintendent, and with Cliff Walton retired, I knew you had some big boots to fill, and you really did. You really did. The standards you set and then live by yourself represent the very best of the Air Force. Nothing I did could have been done without you. Your candor, your advice, and deep blue professionalism have inspired and mentored me. When our commander support staff was gutted due to deployment of PCA, you immediately jumped in and you made everything happen. And a lot of folks don't realize, but just about everything that happens on this base, whether it's AFSA, top 3, first sergeant stuff, the Order of the Sword, That's Sergeant Putbreeze. He's involved in virtually everything this base does. I'm going to miss your counsel and your enthusiasm. Oh, oh. Don, you know, it's funny, because I basically gave you my chair when you came in, and having done the DO gig myself, and it would have been real easy to judge your performance based on my experience, but you really did take me to school on what an effective DO is. And, you know, I mentioned this at my luncheon, but, you know, some of you were in the unit when he took command of the squadron for 30 days while I was recovering from back surgery. And so I was staying at home. He was doing such a good job, I started thinking about what other surgeries I might like to have while I was home. And just, he had it, so it was all good. And I never really had to worry about operations. I only had to focus on leading because Don had all the operations covered. And you will please enjoy your very well-earned retirement. So you more than earned it. Mr. Betcher, you, sir, you stand without peers. And no matter how much we put on your plate, you made it happen. And sometimes I don't know how, but you did. And no matter how crazy the suspense, and no matter how many balls you had in the air, in almost every way, you are the squadron. I mean, you've seen it all, you understand it all, and I've learned so much from you. It's just simply amazing. And I don't know what we would have done without you, because you always have the answer, the continuity, you've got the solution. And most importantly, you've always placed the needs of the operator above your own needs and the needs of the unit. The Air Force needs more like you. And Glenn, we've asked a lot of you as well. We've almost doubled your mission load since you've been here. And you've handled it all with an ease and alacrity that's nothing short of inspiring. The prior service experience you have really comes through in the best possible way. That gives you a credibility and maturity well beyond what the rank would show. And you've been everything I've needed as a flight commander, even though we're not an OSS. And then some. And I've watched you work awards packages and OTS and step packages for folks who aren't even in your flight because you felt it was the right thing to do. So you've inspired me to be a better officer, so thank you. And I want to thank my first sergeants. There's been a few of them because it's an additional duty and we have to pass the shirt. So Master Sergeant Blanchard, Master Sergeant Rogers, who's currently deployed, Master Sergeant Schumann, and Master Sergeant Moody have all made my job easier. A squadron can't function without an effective shirt, and every one of you did a fantastic job that you should all be proud of, and I will always be grateful for. To the squadron, to those of you here deployed and to whom have moved on, I want to thank you. Thank you for the experience of a lifetime, and thank you for making my family feel part of your family. Thank you for getting it done against the clock and against the odds, and thank you for what you do every day to keep our nation safe. But I definitely want to thank my wife Patricia for her support over the last 2, or closer to 18 years. Brilliant and beautiful, patient and dedicated, she is absolutely my foundation and my better half. Some of you know this, but probably not everyone. Patricia is herself a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force Reserve. She's a phenomenal award-winning officer whom I've always looked up to. Patricia, you inspire me to be a better husband, a better father, and a better officer. You are everything I could ask for, and you're more than I deserve. And my boys aren't here today. They're spending some much-needed decompression time with their grandparents up north, but they've endured the late dinners and occasional missed baseball games with like champions, and I'm very, very proud of them. So, Colonel Baker, the longer I talk, the longer I get to stay in command, right? Right? Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to wrap this up, but they say every graduated squadron commander will tell you that it's the best job there is, and it truly, truly is. And it's not easy, but the good stuff never really is. It's a whole lot easier, though, when you have effective leadership working alongside you all the way down to the frontline supervisor. And I think our focus on developing that frontline supervisor has really started to pay dividends. Hopefully you'll agree with me on that one. And it all comes back to top-notch NCOs and senior NCOs that the squadron's been blessed with. So Brian, I know you're going to do an awesome job. You'll be surrounded by some of the most professional leaders you'll ever have the opportunity to work with. And you'll be a part of the best weather group in AFWA. There'll be some tough calls ahead, but you'll have a strong, supportive team behind you when those calls come. And they'll make sure your intent is carried out in the most efficient and professional manner possible. In other words, this is your dream team. Okay? Enjoy your time as much as I did. So Hurd, I'll always feel attached to this unit. No matter where I go or what I do, I'll be thinking of you. I'll be looking for news on the WISC installing some new weather system in a faraway place. I'll be praying for your safety as you continue to make the battlefield safe for coalition forces. And you may be the 2nd Combat Weather System Squadron, but you're always first in my heart. Thank you for letting me serve with you. And before I step away from the podium, I'd like to ask you to indulge me one more time in a squadron cheer. You guys ready? Please don't leave me hanging. Ready? What are we? Combat ready! Thanks, guys.
The Lieutenant Colonel Vollmer will now present a gift to his wife as a token of appreciation for her support.
Okay.
Why you always do more than one driver?
That's right. The little boys I have left, guys, ordinarily you give flowers to your wife, something like this, as you're heading out to say thank you for 2 years of enduring all the, basically lending me to the unit. But we're about to get in the car and drive for 4 days. So instead, it's just simply a charm for your Pandora bracelet. It has the Air Force wings on it. So you'll remember why you got it. But thank you for your service. As, not only as an officer yourself, but as my wife.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Vollmer. The men and women of the 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron would like to thank you for your sacrifices, support, and dedication over the past 2.5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the change of command.
Post your order.
Attention to orders. In accordance with Special Order Number GA-13-24, dated 21 June 2013, Department of the Air Force, Headquarters, Air Force Weather Agency. By order of Commander, 2nd Weather Group, Colonel David E. Bako, Lieutenant Colonel David R. Vollmer relinquishes command, and Lieutenant Colonel Brian L. Belson assumes command of the 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron, effective 21 June 2013.
Sir. Sir, Instinct Command.
We're clapping. Please be seated. Colonel Bako will now present Lieutenant Colonel Belson with the commander's pin.
Let your family please you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor I present to you the Commander, 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Brian L. Belson.
There's a theme here. Colonel Bako, thank you for the opportunity to command this squadron and for not drawing blood. As you mentioned, my brother is probably going to be waiting in the wings when we get out of here to do just that. Mrs. Bako, thank you for coming today. Ms. Bowerfield, Colonel Adams, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend today's ceremony. Chaplain Reynolds, Sergeant Anderson, thank you for the rendition of the invocation and the national anthem. And Sergeant Herron, where is... He organized today's ceremony, and for those of you who've done that, you know that there's a lot involved in doing it, and you did an excellent job. Thank you. I know you had a lot of help. Sergeant Neese, Sergeant Kelly, all the rest of the folks in the squadron who helped out. I want to publicly thank you for making today so memorable to me and my family. Mom, Dad, Joe, thank you for taking the long drive to come and see this today. Michelle, Audrey, thank you, as always, for your love and support. This is our 3rd PCS in 4 years, so she's gotten really good at emptying boxes, but it's been amazing, and you've done a great job. We also have 2 other children who, Brenna and Cam, who you'll see around, but they're a little too young to sit still for 30 minutes, so we put them at the CDC today. But command is a significant milestone in a career. It's a tremendous honor to assume command of the 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron. It is safe to say that following in Dave's rather large footsteps is a fairly daunting task, but knowing that the men and women who made the squadron operate are staying behind makes me a lot more comfortable with what's going to come. This squadron fills unique roles for Air Force, roles that make a real difference in how well the U.S. and its allies understand and exploit the weather. Whether it's training airmen before deployment, testing equipment before employment, or fixing broken equipment in theater, the unit has exemplified excellence in the past and will continue to do so. In closing, I look forward to working with and getting to know the men and women of the 2nd Combat Weather Systems Squadron. I've witnessed firsthand on several occasions your professionalism and dedication, and I'm excited and humbled by the opportunity to lead you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Belson. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Please stand for the playing of the Air Force song and the departure of the official party.